They always said I'm wrong, but what they doing today? I think they want me gone, but I ain't going away. They told me I was wrong, but look at my ass today. Da 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 da.
Hey guys, what's going on? I'm Tim for the Real Sports Talk along with Chris. You saw him when we did our Euro 2012 coverage. Chris helped us out there. And this year we're going to start covering the Premier League on this channel. It's something I've wanted to do for a long time, is try and cover every sports league across the country, and we're slowly getting there. We're going to start with the Premier League in terms of football, soccer, whatever you want to call it. Obviously, we're American, but the Premier League is not. So we're going to try and cover it. It's going to be kind of a work in progress, although you guys know that this channel is one of the better sports channels on YouTube. I'm new to the game. Obviously, I play the game, but I'm new to really watching it, and Chris is newer to reporting about it, so it's going to take some time, but I can guarantee you by the end of this year, we are going to be the best soccer channel or football channel, whatever you want to call it, across the internet. We're going to get there. Now, obviously, you see the Liverpool stuff. We're going to try and keep this as unbiased as possible. I'm not a fan of any team because I'm new to it. Chris is a Liverpool fan, but we will keep this as unbiased as possible. What we're going to do in this video is we're going to break down each team, what transfers they made in the offseason, what their record was last season, and what we anticipate that they will do in the upcoming season. So we'll start, Chris, with Arsenal. Tell me about what Arsenal did last season first.
Yeah, Arsenal finished third last season. They had a good season. In the beginning, they struggled. They made a run towards the end. This offseason, their biggest signing was probably Lucas Podolski, the German striker. It looks like Robin Van Persie is going to be staying. So I think they'll have another good season, maybe third to fourth, top four.
Yeah, no question. Obviously, in most of these, I'm just going to be relying on Chris because I'm new to the game. So I know you guys are used to me giving, like in every other sport, an expert opinion. I'm not going to be doing that as much here. What we're going to do basically is break down what they did last season. I'll ask them what they did in the offseason to improve, or in his opinion, maybe not improve, and then where we anticipate that they finish. So, again, where do you anticipate Arsenal finishes this season?
Probably, I would say another top four as long as they keep Robin Van Persie. If they don't, that's a lot of goals lost, and they could drop. As long as they keep him, another top four.
All right, we move on to Aston Villa then. What did Aston Villa do last season?
Last season, they finished 16th, which is only 2 up from relegation.
So in the offseason, what did they do to build on that and try and keep away from being relegated if they really did anything?
They really haven't done anything. Emil Heskey is left for free, which is a legend if anybody knows about him. Not really the best player, but yeah. I think, again, they're going to be struggling to keep up from relegation. Again, they've got a new manager, but they're still not a good team. They haven't brought anybody in.
Yeah, they really didn't build
the
on
same team, really.
Yeah, and that is not a good sign for Aston Villa. They certainly will be on the cusp, likely, of being relegated. If you had to give me a spot where they finish this season, do you believe that they just avoid relegation, or do they get relegated this year?
It's tough. A lot of the bottom teams are close this year, but I think they may just avoid it. We'll have to see, obviously, when the season starts.
All right, we go on to Chelsea next. Chelsea had a busy offseason. First off, though, where did they finish last season that led to this busy offseason?
Last season, they finished 6th, but they obviously won Champions League against Bayern Munich.
And what did they do this offseason to improve on that?
Yeah, this offseason, they're obviously one of the big spenders in all of sports, really. They brought in Oscar for £25 million, and they brought in Eden Hazard for $32 million, which are 2 great signings. But they also lost Drogba, Kalou, and they were both for free.
Yeah, losing Drogba is huge. I mean, I'm not the biggest fan, but obviously Drogba was one of the probably top 5 players in the world last year, so losing him was tough. Where do they finish this season compared to last year?
This season, I could see them finishing, again, they're another top 4 team.
Yeah.
They've brought in good players, but they've also lost good players, and they haven't gotten any money for the players they lost.
Yeah, losing Drogba, losing some of the other players that they did certainly will not be probably to Chelsea's benefit. We to Everton now. Where did Everton finish last season, Chris?
Last year they finished seventh. They haven't really done much again this offseason. They brought in the Steven Pienaar for $4.5 million. South African winger. I can see them finishing again 7th, 8th, mid-table.
All right, so they're not necessarily one of the worst teams, but they're right in the middle of the pack. Fulham is the next team you look at. What did they do last season?
Last season, Fulham finished 9th. They struggled a lot in the beginning, but they started picking it up towards mid-season.
And in the off-season, what moves did they make or players did they lose?
So far, they've brought in Hugo Rodallega. He was a free transfer. I think he's a bit overrated in my opinion. And they've lost Ituhu, which is a pretty big loss for them. Danny Murphy and Andrew Johnson, all for free. And Clint Dempsey possibly going to Liverpool, which is their best player. Most of their goals came.
All right, so explain the transfer window, which closes in a few weeks to everyone.
Pretty much the summer transfer window starts in June and lasts till just past the beginning of the season, which is next week. And pretty much the teams can loan players out, buy players, sell players, all that during there. And then in January starts the winter transfer window for a month where they can do the same thing. That's pretty much it.
All right, so it's obviously different. If you're new to the Premier League, it's certainly different than any other sport in terms of how they transfer players and how players can be transferred and then brought back. So it's I actually kind of like it. Liverpool, one of the most popular teams. What did Liverpool do last season?
Last season we finished 8th, which for us is pretty poor, but it is what it is.
And what did you guys do in the offseason to build on that and look to improve?
Yeah, this offseason we brought new manager Brendan Rodgers in, which I feel has been great. We bought Fabio Borini, the Italian striker, for £10 million. But we've also lost a lot of players. Aquilani's out, Dirk Kuyt's out, Fabio Aurelio's out, and Maxi Rodriguez is out. Craig Bellamy's out. So we've lost a lot.
For as many players as they got, they probably lost more in terms of talent.
Well, as I said with Fulham, Clint Dempsey might leave Fulham, and he obviously would be coming to us. And also Joe Allen, we just signed today. So that's pretty big.
All right, so your non-homer perspective, where do you see Liverpool finishing this year?
Honestly, I think we'll make some improvement as we're playing more of a Barcelona style now. So I say we move up 2 spots to 6th.
All right, Manchester City was actually better last year than Manchester United, their rival, who is normally one of the top powers as well. Manchester City, what did they do last year that I'm alluding to?
Last season, obviously, they won the Premier League.
Yeah. And then this offseason, what did they do to build on that?
Yeah, they're one of the teams that's obviously owned by rich people again. They have millions and millions and hundreds of millions of dollars. But to everybody's surprise, they actually haven't bought anybody this offseason. They've only lost a few players, which none of them are even worth mentioning.
All right, so where do you see Manchester City finishing? Can they repeat?
Honestly, I think they can repeat because their biggest competition, which we're going to next, Man United, hasn't really done that much either.
All right, so let's go straight to Man United. Manchester United last year obviously was not as good as Manchester City. Where did they finish last year?
Last year they finished 2nd, so I see them obviously, like I said, finishing 2nd again.
They're right in the mix with things. What did they do in the offseason?
They brought in Kagawa from Borussia Dortmund in the Bundesliga. They lost Park Ji-sung, which has been, it's one of the players that was hyped up from Asia. Came over and did absolutely nothing, so that's not a very big loss. And Michael Owen, which is like 36 years old now,
so it's not a huge loss. We move on to Newcastle next. Newcastle last season, what did Newcastle do?
Yeah, Newcastle surprised everybody last year. Everyone thought they'd be in for relegation. They came out and they finished actually 5th, so they were the surprise of last season.
Can they build on that this season, or do they come back down to earth more this season?
Like you said, I think they're going to come back down to earth. They lost Leon Best, which is a good goal scorer. They brought in one player, not really that great, but I see them maybe 7th about.
Alright, so they're still certainly not in the point of being relegated, but they're not going to finish as high as they did last year. Norwich is the next team that we look at. What did Norwich do last season in the Premier League?
They were another side that got promoted last year, for all you can know what that means. And they finished 12th, which is really good for them.
Alright, so explain to anyone who wouldn't know what it means, what does being promoted mean?
Pretty much, I'll make it simple. The top 3 teams from the Championship, which is a lower league, get promoted to the Premier League, and then the bottom 3 from the Premier League get relegated to the Championship, which is the lower league.
Alright, so going back to Norwich, what did they do this season?
Well, Paul Lambert, their manager, which got credit for most of what they did last year, has left them. They could be. They're going to be towards the bottom. They haven't really done much with players, but they're going to be towards the bottom, I think, and they're going to struggle to keep up.
Alright, so we look at QPR next. Explain to everyone about Queen's Park.
Last year they finished 17th. Anybody that remembers the Man City QPR game for the Premier League to win, it was probably the best game in the history, and they just kept up in that last game.
What did they do in this offseason then?
They're owned, obviously, another team owned by very, very rich people, and they bought a lot of players. One biggest being Junior Hoylett. He's a Canadian. Great player, has a lot of pace. They brought in, that's pretty much it. They brought Andrew Johnson, a couple other mentionables, not really anything special. I think they'll improve, though, around 15th maybe.
Alright, Reading, the next team we look at. Explain to me what Reading did last season.
Reading was another team promoted from the Championship. I remember watching them last season early, and they struggled. They were in 17th probably for the first few months of the season, and then they just kicked it into gear, and they finished second and got promoted. They brought in Danny Guthrie from Newcastle in the off season. They bought 7 players, so they're definitely trying to build and become a contender in the Premier League.
Alright, the opposite of the place we live in, Southampton. What did Southampton do in the offseason?
They finished first in the Championship. Amazing season. I think they were like 14 points or so above Reading, which was second. Haven't really bought many players either. I think they'll do all right, about 15, 16.
Okay, Stoke is the next team to look at as we wind down our Premier League 2012-13 preview here. Stoke, what did they do last season?
Last season, Stoke finished 14th, so not bad for them. They brought in Michael Kiteley from Wolverhampton Wanderers, which got relegated last season for £2 million. And pretty much, they haven't done much either, and they're probably going to be about the same mid-table.
Alright, so Sunderland, next team we look at it. What did they do last season, and then what did they do to build towards the 2012-13 season?
Finished 13th last season. They were actually, I believe, I can't remember exactly. I think they were the last team Manchester United played to see if they would win the Premier League, which they obviously lost that game, or they might have drawn it. They didn't do anything in the off season really. I can see about the same.
Alright, Swansea. Explain what they did in the off season.
Brendan Rodgers, which was their manager, has obviously gone to Liverpool, so that's a huge loss for them because he's the one that brought them from, the depths of English football all the way to the top. Joe Allen out, obviously, again to Liverpool, and they're one of the teams that I think may get relegated this year.
Alright, so they're looking more at a bottom team. Tottenham Hotspur, explain about them a little bit.
They finished 4th last season. They got kind of gypped in not being in the Champions League because Chelsea obviously won, so that means they're automatically in. They have bought Sigurdsson, Harry Redknapp, the manager, is out for Andre Villas-Boas, which was the Chelsea manager who got fired. And they really haven't done much. Out Steven Pienaar, they lost him. I think they're going to be around 5th this year.
West Brom, what did West Brom do this offseason? And we'll begin with what did West Brom do last season?
Last season they finished 10th, which is really good for them.
And then what did they do in the offseason to hopefully continue to improve?
They lost their manager Roy Hodgson, which is now
Yeah.
the England manager, which we all saw in the Euros. They haven't brought anyone in really. Ben Foster, that's about it. And I could see them as another relegation side.
All right, we're down to our final two teams. West Ham, what did they do?
West Ham got promoted from Championship, obviously last year. They haven't done much in the offseason. They lost John Carew, which is, I think, one of their best players. So that's going to be a loss. But I don't really see them doing that great either.
All right, final team, Wigan, how did they do in the offseason, and what did they do last year?
They finished 15th last year. They lost Diame, which is a good player for them, and Radiega. And I think they may be another relegation.
All right, so when we get down to it, first off, who do you think will be the best player in the Premier League this season?
Best player? It's tough to say because they change every year, and really Fernando Torres was supposed to be the best player last year. He did
And
nothing.
Drogba almost ended up being that. So if you had to give me just a few players to watch, who would
A
it be?
few players to watch. Obviously, your normal players. Fabio Borini from Liverpool. I think he just made the switch from Italy. Look out for him, maybe. There's a lot of players. Obviously, the Wayne Rooney.
Yeah.
Players like that. If RVP stays in England, I think he'll have. I think if he stays with Arsenal, which it looks now as he will, I think he'll be the leading goal scorer again this year.
All right, so to wind down our Premier League preview, who wins it all?
Who wins it all? I'm going to say that's another tough question. I'm going to say it's going to be between the two Manchester teams again. And I think Man City may edge out United again one more time.
All right, so we are headed, in Chris's mind, towards last season, a rematch of the championship. Remember to check out therealsportstalk.com. Follow me on Twitter at CashKelly, KASHKelly_TRST. What's your Twitter?
My Twitter is Krister LFC. I'll put it in my YouTube. I'll just put in the
Yeah, we'll put that certainly in the description as well. That's your preview. Explain basically what you're going to be doing here on the Real Sports Talk throughout this season.
Yeah, on here I'm just going to be doing, we discussed it yesterday, about every Thursday or so I'm going to do a preview of the games ahead for next season, or for the next week.
Yeah.
And then maybe like midweek, Tuesday, Wednesday, I'll do like a recap / just basic general news.
All right, so look out for that the entire season. Obviously, I will continue to be as Chris, but I'll continue to cover pretty much every sport on this channel, along with Akeem, everyone involved, Justin. So make sure you continue to check out the Real Sports Talk. If this is your first time that you've ever seen this channel, make sure you subscribe because, look, we're getting into sports from completely different parts of the world. So maybe you watch our videos about the NBA or MLB or NFL, and that gets you into one of those leagues. Certainly make sure you subscribe right above, and we'll see you guys later.
Just a little place around the corner from fear. Be there.